Hey, good morning, YouTube. Well, I'm here to talk about Greenleaf Season 2, Episode 14. 14 or 15? I think it's 14. I'm getting old, forgive me. All right, this thing opens it up with Lionel. Lionel has come to the Greenleaf Mansion to have a talk with Bishop. So he comes in there and he tells Bishop and May about his son, Aaron, the lawyer. His son is gay. Apparently, he went to meet him. He dropped in on him unexpectedly. He had a surprise. He dropped in on him in Montgomery to give him this news about him being hired for some other position or considered for some other position. And when he gets there, he sees his son is being seems a little surprised. Something's not right. And then he discovers that Kevin, the missing Kevin, is in the apartment with him. He makes a point to say that it's a one-bedroom apartment. And so he's very hot about it. Okay. So, of course, we're going to get back to that several times. All right, so next thing we have is Jacob wakes up to a blowjob. I don't know why we have to know all about y'all's love life, but not ours. All right, so she's down there doing the thing with him. They're so happy. This Carissa is a snake. See, the first when this thing first started, she was portrayed as a climber and a bit of a diva and a mess and a witch. Not literally, but she was very evil in the beginning. Then they kind of smoothed her role over towards the end of the first season, where her and her husband had patched the marriage back together and they're all in lovey-dovey again. So now she's back in this power play thing again, and we're starting to see her witchy side again. Clarissa. So she's gotten her wish. Now he's installed as the pastor of Triumph. So I guess she blessed him with some head for that. Next thing happens is Charity gets an offer. She runs into the breakfast room telling Lady May and Grace that she has been offered to tour with Tisha Cobb. Is Tisha Cobb? She's been touring, no, with the man girl. What's her name? Okay. Tamala Mann. That's the one from Tyler Perry's fame. Tamala Mann, y'all know her. Take Me to the King. She's been offered to tour. Now, she's very excited about touring, but she's only going to tour with her as a backup singer. I mean, I think the writing would be a more prestigious position. But she wants to sing. I guess she's going to... So it's obviously it's going to lead to something. She tells them that she's been offered this tour. The tour goes on for 10 weeks. So, of course, Lady May wants to know what about the baby. And she wants to make arrangements because she's very excited about touring with Tamala Mann. Okay, Lady May's not all that. She's not all that wild about the idea, mainly because the same thing I just said about is just to be a backup singer. Okay, so she says she asked First Lady May that she would release her maid to be her, to tour with them and keep the baby. And Lady May said, "Well, ask her. She has other responsibilities, but ask her." All right. Aaron asked Bishop to mediate a meeting between his father and himself. Well, I guess Lionel would have asked for the mediation, but before they go into the mediation, Aaron speaks with the bishop and kind of lays out what he wants to happen in this meeting. Bishop seems to be lean more towards Aaron's side of this thing. It's a dumb argument. I mean, what do these people say? Is he gonna do the right thing? What? So he just changes his. People change their identity. It's just their decision. It's just a decision. Like, Bishop just wakes up one day and say, "I'll be gay today," and just put a dick in his mouth. Doesn't make any sense. Anyway. It's an age-old argument. We've all had it. We've all been through it. They won't have mediation. They have Bishop there so they can speak. So he drags him into his office. Lionel's not handling it well. He's the biggest hypocrite in the world. But so they go back and forth with these Bible verses. So now they're not using usually the one that's used is Leviticus. Now they updated. Now they're using first book in Romans, which, as I've said it. You follow me many times. Paul was a man. Paul was not a god. He was not a deity. Whatever Paul said in a letter does not necessarily mean that's the word of God. But that's only an opinion. I'm so over this argument. I mean, I know people are still going through this right now. Right now, there's somebody 15, 16 years old coming out, all the stuff they have to go through. So the story is still valid. But for me, somebody who's been gay for 50, 60 years, well, not 60, 50, excuse me. The argument gets so old because it's such a tired. I mean, all these people always want you to, after they find out you're gay, you're going to change now. You still having an argument 1,000 years later? You would think we have come farther than that. Anyway, I mean, I'm going to try not to preach in this. Keep it on the television show, Timothy. Okay. So Aaron, he's so passive in this thing. Aaron goes to talk to Charity in her office, right? And I've never seen her so evil. She's mean. She's bitter. Anyway, he goes in there to apologize, I guess. And she didn't want to hear anything about, because he's going there where Kevin is at, how he's feeling and all that. She don't care how he feels. She said, even if I had announced that I was a lesbian, I would still be a mother. And she has a point there. Because I guess she's taking he had walked off and left his son. And she needs the help, particularly now. She wants to go on this concert. She has to leave her baby with strangers. So she don't want to hear it. So Aaron is persistent. He wants to try to try to understand where Kevin's coming from. And she said she don't want to hear it, and all but throws him out of her office. Or she says, I'm busy right now. That's how you... It doesn't end well, the conversation between those two. She's very bitter towards Kevin for taking off. And I think also for this man, because she says, isn't that how you start your conversations? What can I do for you? Isn't that how you used to ask me that when you were living in my house and working at the church and being my lawyer in my divorce? So really, she's got a good point there, because I think that might qualify as conflict of interest, because while he was handling her divorce from Kevin, in her mind, he was screwing Kevin. So we don't know if that happened after the case was already settled or during the time. They were already flirting with each other, though. You're having an affair with my husband as you're handling my divorce from him. That's the conflict of interest. Anyway, so that doesn't end well. Next, we go back to the mediation. Aaron tells his father, okay. Mediation gets loud. The father is his whole standing his ground, but you gotta have to at least try to change. And at some point he says, I'm just so glad your mother did leave us before she could see this. And Aaron tells her, she knew. Mothers know. She knew I told her when I was 13 years old. He said, that's impossible. And she knew about you too. And all those women. So Lionel said, huh? What? What? They must go, hypocrite Christians. Excuse me? The women. Just because you were doing it with women, you know, better than me doing it with men. It's still sin, he says. And then, whereas James is taking all this in. The bishop, I always call him bishop. Is his name James? Yes. Bishop was taking all this in. Oh. Some tea. And so, of course, he denies it. But, okay, wait a minute. Okay, next scene is with Grace. Grace and Darius. We still don't know what the tea is with Darius yet. We don't know what is all of his motivations. Although he seemed to have been writing these stories about the Greenleafs, and they're still together. So I don't know if it's been just worked into the relationship that he writes stories on the Greenleafs or what. But me, and I'm sure many other people, are very suspicious about his motives. But Grace is talking to him, and she's asking him about children. How do you feel about having kids? And he's saying, what, you want to have more? And she's saying, I'm just curious. She knows that about a person. He said, no, I'm cool without kids. So he makes it clear that he's not interested in having more children. Now, Grace is in her early 30s, I assume. So I guess time is kind of taken out for her. I used to think women had stopped having babies around 30, you know, between 30, 32, 33. So she's right at that time where it's now or never. So maybe she wants to have another baby. They haven't made that extremely clear, except for she's asking him how he feels about it. He's answering in the negative, and they at some point they make love after that. So they're still together, but he didn't want no babies. Okay. Next big scene. All right. Now, okay, so they're at dinner. And Lionel's at the dinner. May, you know, Bishop, the whole family. And Lionel says he wants to apologize. He wants to apologize to the Greenleafs for causing all of these problems for his son's part in his issue with Kevin, and for these sins, awful sins. And then Lady May whooped up around her. She's had a couple of drinks now. She's got one in her hand, and she says, "Which sins? Which one are you talking about? Which sins and which laws?" They cross over, you know. Anyway, she's saying that the homosexual. That's the sin. But it's not a law. She said the other things in the Ten Commandments, those are laws. Murder, lying, adultery, and so she is on the verge of losing it at the table because no one knows that she's had an affair with this man, but she didn't know that he was having affairs with other women. So she is hot about it. And then she all but come very close to spilling too much tea at the dinner table because she's had a couple of drinks. She's saying that, that's the breaking God's commandments. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Although she is also committing adultery. And back in the day, she would have been the one stoned first. You know, use the Bible however you want to use it. Next thing is with this boy, Isaiah. I think Isaiah is basically Spain's son. I'm not 100% on that, but, you know, he has the same look with the straight hair, and I'm pretty sure he's his son. Anyway, so Isaiah pushes Zora into a pole. If that's his son, though, they should have a little more conversation between the mother and the son, and they're never seen as a family. You know what I mean? So I'm not 100% on that. Okay, he shows up late for the cotillion. They're having this practice run for the cotillion. The girls got on these big skirt things. They're not the real skirts. I don't know what they call that stuff, but just so they get the idea of what it's like to dance in a dress like that. So he comes. Everybody's partnered up with all their boyfriends or their dates are there. He goes into show off thing where they're doing these certain steps that are traditional steps for the cotillion, and then he whispers something earlier about spinning her around and catching her and all that, and then breaks off in this damn Michael Jackson moves, grabbing his crotch and everything, and which is totally inappropriate, totally wrong. Everybody is saying, "What in the hell is it? Your cotillion, Negro, or hers?" So the teacher comes and smacks him with the ruler, telling him, "Get in line. The hell you wrong with you?" And then everybody tells him that it was quite some moves. This is what's this girl name? Sophia. She kind of snaps at him at this thing, and then he accuses Zora with siding with her cousin, Sophia, against him. Right. Then he says even his own cousin, he accuses him as well as being 3 against 1. So anyway, he's out of here. He storms off. They should let him keep going, but they get out in the courtyard and then they argue. Who you gonna choose? Who you slamming? Me or her? All this kind of stuff. You got to choose him. He's a little egomaniac, kind of freakish kind of guy, with prone to violence. And so now here we at the third time we see them having an encounter. Here he go again. This time he pushes her into a pole. Then he gives this old pitiful ass abuser. You know how these abusers always got the tears in the cry. Oh, I love you. It's only you. I'll never do it again. Never do it again. All this bullshit, which it just seems to be goes along with the abuse kind of thing. I don't know. It sounds very, very familiar to me. Very similar to what you hear abusers, the way they apologize and cry and beg and all that after they beat the shit out of you, put you in the hospital and broke your arms and legs. Anyway. All right. Next scene is between May and Lionel. She got him in a room by herself. And she says she considered leaving her husband, her life, for him. And all the time he was fucking with other women. And she asked him, were there other women? Then he comes up with some weak ass, none that I cared about like you. Were there other women? None that I loved the way I loved you. Tell me the truth. And so he says, there were some other women. And she slaps the shit out of him. She slapped the shit out of him, right? And then after he said, oh, she hits him in the back. Lady Mae, you are the co-adulterer, woman. But I guess he pulled at her heartstrings. They're all worried about the gate, and they ain't no cleaner than he is. Lord have mercy. When you live your life trying to follow an ancient book. Well, they don't actually try. They don't even follow it. They just do what they want to do, and then they find justification for what they want to do in their book. We never did get the story about some of Bishop's past. It was hinted in the first season that he has been carrying on himself, and then perhaps he's had something going with Mavis at some point, her sister. So everybody's dirty. Is that how it ends? Okay, the last scene. Last scene is Lionel is leaving. Bishop's giving him a couple of last words in front of the house. He tells him, that's the only boy you got, the only family you have now. He needs you, and you're gonna. First he says we're old men, which is true. He might need somebody to push that wheelchair soon. And he said, he needs you, and soon you're going to need him. And then the fool stood up and Lionel said, tell me I'm sorry. And he said, what? Sorry for what? Because Bishop already gave him a little look at the dinner table when she was getting all emotional behind his infidelity. And now he gives him another glance. And she wondered, why you wanted to apologize to my wife? What did you do? What did you do to her? That's how I leave it. So there we go. That's the end of, we'll see you next week with Greenleaf. All right? All right.